just because you don't have the guts to pull the trigger does not mean you're not responsible for the trigger being pulled every time you buy your piece of meat camouflaged in cellophane in the grocery store. And then he said, at least the animals I eat have had a life. And it did. I thought to myself, one of the things that I want my life to be about is compassion and kindness. And I never, I can remember being 3 years old. I was in Spain at a bullfight. And I was absolutely horrified by what was going on. And I can remember when the bull got a few points, I jumped up onto my chair and cheered for the bull as loudly as I could. And I thought to myself, what happened? It just made me start to think about what goes on with animals for them to become our food. And so I started to research, and I just started to read everything I could. I got agricultural journals. I, even read John Robbins' Diet for a New America, and, on some of the sort of stuff for the general public and some for professionals. And within about a week or two, I decided, I thought to myself, I can't do this anymore. I get that the farm is not the place my mother was raised on, where they had one cow, her name was Betsy, and that's where they got their milk. It's not the same anymore. That what farming for a large population has become, I just couldn't in good conscience support that system of cruelty. And it scared the hell out of me, because I was a registered dietitian. I taught Canada's Food Guide in the 4 food groups. I was a public health nutritionist. Every bit of public health material I had was based on 4 food groups, 2 of which were animal products. And so it was scary. I didn't know how I could be a dietitian and be a vegan or a, almost completely plant-based individual. And I thought, I didn't know if there were any other vegetarian or vegan dietitians on the planet. I had certainly never met one. Mm-hmm. So it was really scary at that time. And I can remember having this internal struggle with myself, thinking about what other careers I could do. I had, toyed between dietetics, because I loved nutrition, but I had considered law, and several of my teachers at high school said you should go into law, and I was on the debating team and all of that. So I thought, well, maybe I should go into law and forget about dietetics and nutrition. And then I had this internal battle, and I just thought, I love this subject. Why, when I'm seeing a bigger picture here, why should I walk away when I could potentially make a difference for consumers and for my profession by staying, by trying to move our profession forward from within? And I thought to myself, I hate the thought of being a fringy person. I don't like the idea of people judging me because I'm thinking differently. I always wanted to be part of the cool kids club, and that was scary to me. But I thought, I need to have the courage to do this, because if I don't, who will? And so the journey began.
And I just want to clarify, the journey, it sounds like the journey began because of ethical reasons. And when you started questioning your career, you weren't yet confident in the health reasons for giving up animal products?
We didn't have much information. At that time, it was more, can it be done? Can a person be vegan in good health? Is it even possible? A few of the studies we had on vegans, though I can remember Dagnali and Shinwell and all of these studies from Europe in communities that were using vegan diets, where children were dying and developing, serious forms of malnutrition because of the inadequacy of what they were being fed. And so this was a different time. And although in 1990 we had the lifestyle heart trial from Dean Ornish, which was definitely showing the potential for disease reversal with this diet, but the questions of adequacy were still very much up in the air. And so I did a lot of work myself to try to prove that this diet could be safe and adequate if it was done properly. And that was where my career sort of the direction my career went was making sure that every single person that wanted to do this could do this well for themselves and for their entire families.
And did you leave your job as a public health nutritionist during this time?
No, I didn't. But it was a very short time after, maybe a year after I became pretty much vegan myself. I had two small children, ages 4 and 1 at the time. And my husband and I had been married for about 10 years. And I have to tell you this part of the story, because when I asked my husband if he would be willing to become completely vegetarian, of course, he was raised in Northern Ontario with hunting and fishing. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "I thought you'd never ask. I would love to be a vegetarian." So I
Wow.
lucked out big time.
And his reasoning was because of the environment, right? He's an environmentalist and he understood the footprint. Absolutely.
He just believed that was the best way to leave a softer footprint on the planet. And so, it slowly, I mean, pretty rapidly after I started, we started to see the potential advantages to human health. And I knew that a plant-based diet would have more fiber and phytochemicals and all of the good things that we want. And I didn't see why it would be an issue to get enough protein or iron or zinc based on my knowledge. And so I just kept digging and trying to figure, even essential fatty acids, the concern was that, you needed fish. And so there were all kinds of still holes in the literature, and so it was quite an experience.
Is it true that you were one of the first dietitians, along with a couple of others, that kind of put forward the idea that a healthy human diet does not have to include cow's milk and dairy?
Yeah. So the within about a year of this decision to become completely plant-based, we moved to Vancouver. And that was where we met other real live vegetarians. It was just amazing. And I can remember walking into a veggie potluck thinking it was going to be all hippies and that we would feel so out of place because we weren't, even if I tried, I could not match everything I wore. It's just, I was raised that way and I thought we were going to stick out like sore thumbs. But anyway, I was so amazed when we walked in and there was all these just every different kind of person you could have imagined. There were lawyers and there was a judge and there were teachers and there were police officers, and it was amazing to me. And so that was really exciting. But that was where I met Vasanto Molina, my writing partner of over 25 years. And I met other dietitians who were, Vasanto at that time was lacto-ovo vegetarian, and I met another lady who was lacto-ovo vegetarian who was a dietitian. And that was beyond exciting to me to think there were other vegetarians, at least, in the world who were dietitians. And that was when I ended up with Vasanto and another friend, Victoria Harrison. We decided we would put in a proposal to write a book on becoming vegetarian, and that was the name of our book. And this was 1992 when we started. And we wrote a one-page little proposal and sent it to 2 publishers, and they fought over us.
Nice.
It was amazing. We couldn't believe it. We hardly had to do anything. They just said the time is right to have professionals doing this. This is awesome. So we wrote our first book. And it was published in Canada in 1994, and within probably 6 to 9 months, it was a national bestseller, and it got translated, and it did very, very well. And I'll tell you, we had a chapter in that book called Without Dairy. And the chapter without dairy was, what do people do if they don't want to consume dairy or can't eat dairy? How can you, we had a chapter called without meat as well. And that was, well, how do you get enough protein, iron, and zinc without meat? And then without dairy, how would you possibly get enough calcium and vitamin D without consuming cow's milk? And what happened was, I think we were really the first registered dietitians in Canada that actually said that people could survive without consuming cow's milk, that it wasn't an essential food, or an essential food group for that matter. And the dairy industry thought that becoming vegetarian would be a book that would be promoting a lot of dairy, because most vegetarian books of that day did. It was, lacto-ovo was the thing. Ours didn't. And they ended up writing a 45-page rebuttal to our book. Not only that, they made it free. They gave it free of charge to every health professional in the country. And they took out a full-page ad in our professional dietetic journal to discredit us. So they spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying. They called us irresponsible, and then it was really quite a little show. So I wrote a 45-page rebuttal to their rebuttal.
Nice work.
And it ended up becoming quite a talking point for dietitians and physicians in our country.
Hey folks, okay. Back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.